And welcome back. We're at the IdentityNORTH pre-event of the digital identification check-in of credentials and more. Within this presentation, we're going to talk about leveraging multiple trusted sources to deliver a strong identity assurance and joining different identity networks and identity models that you'll hear about more at this IdentityNORTH conference. My name is DiMira. I'm from our AML program at Manulife Financial, and I've been studying digital identity systems for the last 3 years. I'm very excited and quite looking forward to this presentation with both Robert from Onfido and Darrell from SecureKey.
Great.
And moving forward into our agenda, we're going to start off with talking about how these different credentials and reliable sources fit into your overall program, and what types of problems they're solving. And then we're going to talk through about the verified.me solution and all the different tools in its tool chest, including its latest edition with Onfido. Our appendix at the very tail end of the presentation that will be available afterwards will have additional records for your reference as you learn more and move down this journey. So circling up and reconciling for those that are new to digital identity, to look at what we're trying to accomplish. It's really about looking at trusted sources of information and trust custodians that need to be able to share information on behalf of a customer in between each other. And this allows a customer to move from one organization, their records and their trust, over to another, whether that's you with your driver's license, that you trust the government of Ontario and you want to use that to vouch for you as you open a bank account or setting up a securities account or other forms of business relationships, or other trust partners like your utilities or other providers as well. Digital identity simplifies it. It reduces your friction. It ends up giving truly verifiable records into that mix. And that's going to empower growth and speed up all of our transactions. And that's what this series is about, is looking at all of these different onboarding great tools that can help leverage those trusts from those different organizations. So when we look at it from financial services perspective, there's different types of information and different amounts of integrity of information that are needed. At the very basic minimum, there's antitrust, anti-terrorist, or anti-bribery needs that are the very minimum types of information. But then as you get into more sophisticated products, you need to learn more and get more information from a variety of trusted sources. For example, getting information from your telecommunications firm helps verify that you've got a solid communication back and forth with your clients. You're not releasing information to a criminal, or whether if you're getting proof of income from Canada Revenue Agency. All these great tools will help simplify products and help grow in the future. Examples that are in our daily lives include verified bank accounts that help improve the security of information. So if you're taking money out from your securities account to put a deposit down for a cottage, then making sure that that money goes to your bank account and not to someone else's as a theft is very important and is an important protection for both yourself and your securities firm or other trusted organizations. Your mobile device can help speed you getting into information a lot faster. Those savings to reduce the risk of account takeover and forged records help all of us. And now, these particular tools that we're reviewing in this series today include the photo ID capture, the ability to use credit bureau of the information that you know, telecommunication tools that's embedded within your device, credentials and open ID solutions that we'll hear about more with verified.me and how you can access your information with your banks, and device fingerprinting rules as well. All of these different tools, though, have their different strengths and weaknesses related to verifying, do you exist as a person? Can you trust the records from this other place and trust the records from that person? And is it them coming back time and time again? So it's not just about onboarding, but it's about your entire relationship and strengthening that relationship when you need to. And now to hear about all these great tools in action and how these tools can work together in a variety of different fashions, we're going to pass it over.
Great. Thanks, James. Robert Humphrey with Onfido. We're going to talk today about the kind of the front end to the onboarding process with using digital digital identity verification, and in particular, obviously, the Onfido solution. So next slide. We referred to this as anchoring your digital accounts and the identity in a real identity. And we define real identity as, the next slide, as the anchor between a photo identification, which we all have, driver's license, passports, those are the two most commonly used across the world, and then a biological self, your face, something that your customers never leave home without. And what digital identity verification does is basically two parts to that puzzle. One is identify and confirm that the document that your customer or future customer is possessing is a valid one. And that document, by the way, obviously has to have a photo ID on it. And then also then the verification of the person, the facial, the biometric, the face, verifying that it's actually real, and we'll show you how we do that it's alive, and then we match those two together. So the next slide. The process is really simple, and you'll see a little bit more of the detail in this when during the SecureKey presentation. But the verification step, the first thing that a customer does is a quick document analysis. They take a picture of their driver's license in this case. The next thing, and what that does is the artificial intelligence, machine learning then goes through and looks for the security features on it, all the stuff that you would expect to confirm that that is a valid document. The next step is a biometric check. Take a photo of a selfie, can be a video as well, as you'll see, and confirm that that person is live and in possession of that document. And then data extraction as well, which is part of that low friction. When somebody's onboarding, you can also pull information out of it. So I'll show you what that looks like. The next slide. The liveness test, and there's actually two different types of liveness. When your customer does the selfie, for example, it's looking for both for movement, it's looking for other techniques of spoofing, which we'll show you in a second. One step up of liveness also includes just a quick video, the head turn and lips moving, can be eye blinking, etc., to make sure it's not a 3D mask, etc., etc. So next slide. Give you some examples here and different ways that fraudsters will attempt to spoof. On the top is a genuine selfie, and the spoofing algorithms that look for is basically build a heat map of the face detection that comes through. And on the top one, that's where the heat map looks. We expect it to all be green, and the machine is doing this analysis to understand that that is a face, that is a live face. It is not, as is shown on the second one, a picture of a picture. Pretty common way people are doing it, either cutting out a photo and sticking it on top of a driver's license, those types of rather simplistic but amazingly common attempts at fraud. The spoof heat map sees that this is a spoofed photo and then calls it out as such. And then what we do is a probability, a ranking as to what is the probability of this being a spoofed face. And then you as the customer of the products can then decide at what level of risk do you want to take. If it's 100% spoof, obviously just goes through. Could be a lower level and say it's 78% we think this is spoofed. You may decide to have a human identity analyst take a look at it. We also do pictures of phones. You can also look for pictures of phones. The pixelation obviously is far greater when you're looking at a phone. 3D masks are also a new technique that fraudsters are using, and that's where that liveness test comes in, the turn of a head, etc. And we can see characteristics that show that it's a 3D mask as opposed to an actual face. So how is this used? There's basically two parts of the product that deliver on this. One is the experience engine. The experience engine is all about that. How does it feel and look? And as customers of Onfido or SecureKey, you're able to customize some of that front end user experience part of it, and the data autofill, where we can pull data, extract data out of the systems and actually pre-fill forms out. The security engine is where the magic happens, and that's the document verification, biometric verification, and a known faces database. That's the seen this person before. That you as a customer keep track that you've seen the same fraudsters coming in. We check against that. And then this also integrates into most common identity platforms. Obviously, any identity system that SecureKey is part of, in addition to these and others. So next slide. The kind of the three things to close on this one: inclusive user experience. We're actually been winning awards for and particularly of interest in current times on the whole inclusion. Artificial intelligence bias is a big issue, and we have spent a boatload of time and energy on identifying, I think, ethnic races, et cetera, and being able to do that comparison in a great way. The purpose-built machine learning, that's our own, that's in-house, and that's kind of the secret sauce. And then the insights that you can get through SecureKey and our own real-time event tracking and analytics to make this a big part of your overall kind of know your customer AML infrastructure. So last slide. The really excited the announcement that we made regarding Onfido teaming with SecureKey for their Verified Me projects. Introduce Darrell MacMullin now. We'll kind of take you through the SecureKey Onfido solutions and tell you more. So with that, Darrell.
Thanks, Robert. Hi, everyone. Glad you could make it to this session with us. We're quite excited to be kind of evolving the Verified.me platform over the last year. Spent a lot of time connecting to all the different viable sources of identity from banks, credit bureaus, and telecommunications. And of course, photo identity and documents is a natural evolution that we wanted to add into the network as well. And we spent a lot of time over the last year evaluating all the different systems around globally, and landed with Onfido as being kind of an optimal solution and a great partner in many different ways, both from a technology standpoint and their approach to building their software and how we work together in this. We think it's a very compelling proposition to be able to take the strengths of Verified.me and the strengths of Onfido to bring those to market together to have a very compelling solution for people to be able to consume, both as an end user and as a relying party. So maybe you want to advance to the next slide. Of course, the lawyers always end up sticking a little disclaimer every time I talk, so I've been warned, I guess. So here we go. I've done our duty, check the box, onto the presentation. So for those of you who don't know, Verified.me, we've established a cross-industry trusted ID network to protect Canadians' digital lives where trust matters most. Of course, we've got all the major banks on board to be able to use your login to authenticate yourselves and be able to connect any of your trusted identity sources to validate who you are when you want to validate who you are. So, next slide. And we go across the value prop as, of course, as we spend more and more of our time in digital channels, whether it be during this COVID era or not, we're just consuming more and more of our interactions digitally, whether it's account opening, authenticating myself, or being able to do more streamlined identity verification for everything from password recoveries to customer service verifications. We've got a number of different solutions in place. I'm going to focus for this presentation, obviously, how we work with Onfido and specifically around account opening and KYC, digital account opening, that seems to be a hot topic at this event. So as most in the session here probably know, that digitally authenticated documents are now considered a valid source of identity for a variety of FinTrack regulated transactions. And this isn't just bank, of course, there's obviously the FinTech community, but that expands into everything from new client openings with lawyers, real estate agents, and the like, who are all trying to do more and more things digitally. And we needed to make sure we had a very compelling and easy solution for all of these parties in place. Document scanning technology itself continues to improve at a very rapid pace, but being able to validate scanning with other sources in real time lowers that risk further, and we'll show you some examples of that. So as I mentioned, obviously we've got the Onfido piece. Combine that with Verified.me, we are launching something called document verification by Verified.me, which is basically combining those two services together by not only having it fully integrated into Verified.me, but also being able to have it as a standalone offering as well. And I'll kind of explain how some of these pieces all come together in the next few slides. So what we're doing is we're basically taking and creating these 5 levels of checks when we're doing documents. So Onfido does a fantastic job on what we call level 1 and level 2, where they do a full forensic check of the card that's being uploaded, the template audit, pixel and font manipulation, comparing the barcode data and the front of the card data. And then of course, doing the whole biometric photo verification, whether it's a liveness check or a selfie, and comparing that with the document. Fantastic on its own. It does a great job. And we wanted to make that as kind of the baseline of being able to do verifications in the system. What we're able to do at this exact same time in real time is actually check the device that the user is using. Is the device that they're using actually owned by the person that is being, the document that's being scanned from? So we're able to actually check with the telco to see who actually owns the account associated with the device. Is the device relatively new, or has it been in good standing? Is the account in good standing? And what is the age of the SIM as well? Because SIM port hacking, of course, we know is a growing fraud vector. On top of that, we are able to address a number of known blacklists and deceased identities and known bad identities to do some additional verifications against the information that's coming in on the document. Once we're able to get past those, we actually look at the information that's on file with an existing bank or whatever application process that the person went through, and being able to match that data up. There's a variety of components to that. One is just a basic match. Is it the same information or not? But also to be able to consume it easily as a relying party. If one says Greg and the other one says Gregory, how do you form factor everything into an appropriate form factor to know it's the person who you believe it is from all the different trusted sources? And then on top of that, we're in the process of building real-time book of record validations with all the different ministries, whether it be Ministry of Health for health cards and the driver's licenses at the provincial level, and passports, being able to do some validations with those as well. So you're able to determine, is the card, obviously this data that's been provided, accurate and consistent with what's on file with the ministry, but is the card in good standing? Is it suspended? And some other information about registration of the card as well. So being able to have all of that consumed in one report back to a relying party, we think is a pretty compelling proposition. There's two methods to be able to get document verification by verified.me. One, it's real basic. If you're an existing verified.me DAC, or what we call a client of verified.me, you can just request a photo ID bundle in conjunction with any other identity bundles that you're requesting as part of a transaction. And we'll go through a sample of that in a second. Secondly, as I mentioned, next slide, we're also making available a direct API model where you can consume a document verification process outside of verified.me network, but in conjunction with it as well. So it's just a faster and easier way for people to be able to consume it. Should say, as part of that, one of the things we're going to be launching this summer is a new developer portal where people will be able to log in, be able to consume and evaluate all the documentation for these, and be able to go through test environments and be able to consume an API for both the document verification service and in conjunction with all of verified.me services. So we're pretty excited in how we bring this to market. It's going to be a much more robust and efficient way of doing things. So real quickly, if you go through some of the slides, as I mentioned, the first step, we rely on the robust evaluation of the document from Onfido. Next slide. They give us an indication of whether it's clear, rejected, or there's some different levels of caution or suspected. That's when we go through and do some further analysis on our end. The facial similarity verification goes through that process. And there's a variety of algorithms that are testing the accuracy there. Continue on. And then, as I mentioned, we touch base with the telcos directly. We're able to check the device, the SIM, and the account status, as well as the different blacklists. Keep going. And the matching service as well. This is a very configurable component, so you can determine which pieces of data that you want to be able to match up against existing bank data or application data on your end, and how do you want that data to be streamlined back into your back-end system. So it's a much more effective way of consuming the data that you get from all of these sources. Next slide. And then, as I mentioned, all the real-time book of record match verifications along with the eligibility and other data. Continue on. We are launching the service initially with passports and passports internationally and provincial driver's licenses domestically. We are continually going to be adding more and more cards to the system, including permanent residence cards, health cards for a number of those use cases, and we're working with a variety of ministries of health on how to do real-time verification of health cards, as well as KYC for banks and other parties. Next. All right, so I'm going to use this as an example of kind of a bank and how they would be able to apply both a verified.me and a standalone document verification application. We fast forward to the next slide. Typically today, when someone applies online, they have to go through a manual application process. They input their contact information. It goes through a credit bureau check. There's quite a bit of a drop off there. Either people cannot answer knowledge-based questions, or they can't find a file, or the credit file is too thin. And that typically is a 35 to 45% drop off for people being able to apply online, which then leads them that they have to go into a branch in order to do a verification. In order to go into the branch, it's another probably 25 to 30% drop off of completion rates. So what we're saying is you can add into your existing flow, you can augment the existing manual application process. Right at the end of the flow, add document verification, or at the very beginning, not have to rely on anyone entering any data at all. They can do the express application with verified.me, and you can click and get all the different data sources that I'll take you through a demo here in a minute. So just using this example, Emma's looking to open up a new bank account, and we're going to go through kind of the process that she can go here on both of these flow examples. So we can go through the next slide. So as I mentioned, using this as an example, someone has completed an application online on a bank. Fast forward to the next slide. Then at the end of that flow, they'll have this option to be able to choose how they want to be able to verify themselves online. If they select the document verification process, next slide. They select the document type that they want to use, next slide. This is if someone is on a desktop and they want to be able to go and complete the application using their phone. It's important, we're not allowing people to upload photos or use webcams, because just from a quality standpoint, that doesn't pass a lot of the grade and doesn't take advantage of a lot of the components of what Onfido does on proper analysis of documents. So you're able to send a message to your mobile phone. Fast forward to the next slide. On your mobile phone is where you complete the process to upload a document. Next slide. And there you take a photo of the front and the back and the selfie. Next slide. And then that processing is done in real time in terms of being able to evaluate all the components from Onfido, the checks with the telco, the checks with the bank, and the checks with the book of record are all happening in sequence and in real time for the user. That typically takes a minute or two for that process to be completed, and then they're able to proceed to the next process in opening their bank account. And just real quickly, I want to show the mobile version of that as well. That adds a few more bells and whistles to that when you're using the verified.me app. Someone simply just has to tap with the verified.me option as an express application. They log into the verified.me app with their existing bank login. And you can see there on the right, the bank that's requesting the information. They can get my existing bank profile, my credit bureau check, proof of income, as well as my RSP and TFSA room from Canada Revenue Agency, and then have a document verified, all as one transaction in one identity bundle. So the user is prompted to add their photo ID, Same thing, they go through the process here to add and select which document they want to verify. Next slide. They use their mobile phone to take the document and the selfie. Next slide. All of those checks are done in real time, and then they can proceed ahead with sharing all of that information. All the data goes back to the relying party in the structured format that they need. An account can be opened literally in minutes. So that gives you kind of an example of how we're kind of leveraging Onfido and integrating it. So it's a lot more streamlined for someone who's wanting to consume documents or make documents as part of your process. Having that as one API call coming from verify.me, you're able to call upon and get all those verifications across your all the different components that you're requiring to do an online account opening or other different verifications. We've got dozens of other examples of these, and as I mentioned, as we build out our developer portal, you'll see some ways to be able to test these yourselves and talk with one of our solution engineers, and we can show you how to be able to use some of these. I believe we have some parties already testing with this and being able to go live over the next month. So we're excited what the second half of the year holds for document verifications and verify.me. Any questions, you can reach out to me directly, and happy to help any of you with your document verification questions.
Well, great. And thank you very much for both SecureKey and Onfido for joining us for this session today. And we really look forward to seeing more of you guys later throughout the IdentityNORTH conference. I'm sure that you'll both be in the virtual and other sessions too. And thank you for joining us as our audience. Everyone have a great day.